Hi, my name's Rudy and welcome back to the channel. So I saw in my comment section for my Transformers Q&A video, I had a comment um, and it was to do a video or talk about what 80s and 90s toys are like. I am more than happy to do a video on such a subject. It's going to be primarily more 80s than 90s. There's only a select few of 90s toy lines that I like and own. There's definitely some bits that I want to get from the early 90s, but predominantly it is going to be a little chat about 80s and whatnot. I'm not going to talk about Transformers, even though you know that the majority of my collection is Transformers or transforming robots. I'm not going to talk about Machine Robo or Rock Lords or GoBots. There's plenty more videos to come about that element, and I don't want to take up time on a video talking about those when there's going to be X amount of videos coming. So if I the idea with my collection was to try and get at least one example of the toy of that toy line or TV show or comic run that I like. Good majority of the toys always had a cartoon, some didn't, and then some cartoons didn't even get a toy line. So that's always been one part of my ethos in collecting, which I'm slowly on my way to doing. And then the extension from that is trying to get one goodie and one baddie. So if you're collecting, for me, if I was collecting Master of the Universe, I'm going to get He-Man, I'm going to get Skeletor. I'm going to get one goodie, one baddie. I'm going to get Thunderhawk and Matt Tracker, or I'm going to get Switchblade and Miles Mayhem. Just so you have got one goodie and one baddie. So far, it's not it's not really gone that way, as I don't have goodies and baddies for everything. I do have the one item from a lot of the toy lines. So for the purpose of the video, I'm just going to talk about which toy lines that I love from the 80s. Absolutely adore Mask. For me, it's Transformers is always going to be up there, and it's spanned the test of time, and there's so many other lines now, and there's third party that it's always going to be there. But for me, the be all end all is Mask. It had like one of the best TV shows. Incredible theme tune, and the toy line is absolutely phenomenal. The amount of choices and pay scales to buy within that line, and they're really robust, and you know they're recognisable, licensed cars or vans. You know, at the end of the line, they'd got a bit wacky with the ones that went into 2 and the translucent clear plastic ones, which I still enjoy, and I'd love to get one. I'd love to get Firefly, just because it was one that I had as a kid, or Wolf Beast. But it encapsulates everything that the Mask, the Kenner Mask line. It's, you know, the figures fit in the cars. Sometimes you can even fit like 2 in there. I own Rhino, and I had plenty when I was a kid. I won a £5 WH Smith voucher they picked my design for the summer fete in my first school, and I got awarded a £5 voucher. and my mum worked in the town centre, and my dad picked my mum up from work at sort of 6 o'clock, but he would drive to the Manda Centre, and I'd literally go and have a walk around and go to the various like toy shops or to Woolworths, and I'd got this £5 Gerry Smith voucher, and I literally went there and I could see Condor, and Condor was my first Mask toy as a kid when Mask came out, and it was £4.75. I really don't think you can buy Condor now for £4.75 on the secondary market. So that's kind of the big major 80s toy that I love. And then I also love Action Force. Being that it's UK, G.I. Joe. I literally, as you can see here, I got this last year. It's still in the box. I haven't actually got it out. I bought this from a guy in the Netherlands, and I bought it specifically because it's an Action Force one. It's stickered up with Action Force. I only had one Action Force toy as a kid, and that was the ATV. And I loved it. It was incredibly hard to build. I think my dad probably helped me build it. And then I did get Zartan, and Zartan kind of came with a little ski sled. So I never really had much Action Force as a kid. But I was, when I used to go to the toy shops, I absolutely adored the Tiger Force look. I know it's quite divisive in the Joe collecting community. It was a bit later on in the line, and it was, for some people it's a bit too garish and too much, but I thought it was incredibly cool. And they re-released all the vehicles again. I'd never really seen some of those vehicles, and then to see them in a tiger camo, I thought was really cool. I'd love to get some of those Tiger Force characters and vehicles. And another one on Action Force, or G.I. Joe, in terms of my whole goodie baddie thing, I've got my Havoc. I would absolutely love to get a Thunder Machine. I just think it's such a cool looking vehicle. You can blatantly see that it's a Trans Am or it's a Chevy. It's got that front end, and they've obviously pulled no punches with making that look like a real life model of that car, or a Pontiac. I'm terrible with cars. I like cars, don't get me wrong. I can never remember which ones they are. It looks really cool, and I thought Thrasher was a really fun character. All of the Dreadnoughts, actually, they're really cool characters to have. So I'd love to get one of those. Starcom. I really enjoyed Starcom as a kid. I don't own any of it now, and I've looked at it online, and it suffers the white plastic yellowing syndrome that sadly happens with vintage toys, and some of the prices are a bit pricey. It's the top end of the scale for that, and I don't like it. Toys that start to go yellow. It's really sad and depressing. So yeah, I'd love to get some, and I really enjoyed them as a kid. There's the magnetic element and the spring-loaded transforming thing. There seems to be a trend with the toys that I like. They seem to have some sort of transforming mechanism, or that's the key feature of the toys. Moving on, absolutely love it. A lot of figure-based toys. When you have figures and then you've got the vehicle to go with them. I absolutely love Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. The first couple of waves of a really solid figures. I think the poses are really cool, and they came with a phenomenal amount of brown tan weapons that you could build onto a rack. I think subsequent waves got a bit too outlandish. Obviously, the guys had sold off their licensing, and they were no longer too involved with what got made. But for me, the first couple of waves are incredible, and I've mentioned him before in a couple of videos. There's Usagi Yojimbo. He's an incredible figure, and there was a couple of American ones, obviously the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that my friend got me as a kid, because he went to Orlando and he came back, and he brought me back Muckman and Joe Eyeball, and this had the ooze like feature, so you popped in the can of ooze on his face and it all came out of his mouth. That was really good. And it was incredible sculpts, like so much detail. Obviously no connection to the character. I never even saw him in the TV show, but yeah, it's really cool. Other figure-based ones, I like a bit of Brave Star, a little bit bigger figures. Obviously, I briefly mentioned He-Man. That's kind of a given, and I'll have the first wave of and the second wave of the real Ghostbusters, with the scare faces. But yeah, the first wave, they look just like the TV show, and they came with their little wands that sadly tended to break. I really like those, and then obviously the fight, like the big play set. I don't own any big play sets, so I'm a bit limited by space. I'd love a real Ghostbusters fire station or a Boulder Hill. So yeah, they're the more figure-based ones. Oh, I'm forgetting Centurions. They're a much bigger figure, and modular. And once again, this is kind of on my mental wish list. I'd love to get all three of them. I'd love to get Jake Rockwell and Ace McCloud. I have Max Ray, and he was a figure I bought like 4 or 5 years ago, because I'd never owned a Centurions before. My only interaction with it was obviously the TV show on a Saturday morning and seeing them in toy shops. Although we did used to do this a bit at the end of school, where at the summer, the day you didn't have any lessons, and you brought in all your toys. You brought in a couple of the toys that you wanted to play with throughout the day. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but I'm talking about like 1986, 87. Probably a bit earlier than that. It was the last day of term, last day of school before the series holidays. You brought in a couple of toys to play with, and for other people to play with, and you played with theirs. And then I played with Jake Rockwell. He's in yellow suit and it was Wild Weasel. I don't remember which one of my friends brought that in, but yeah, that's one. I'm trying to think. Zoids. I love my Zoids. Again, I didn't. It's not a toy that I had as a kid, and once I saw them in a toy fair a couple of years ago, and I was just like, yep, they're going back on the list. And it brought back such fond memories of going to the Manda Centre and to this toy shop called Zodiac. Sadly, Zodiac didn't exist much past, I think, like 1990 in the Manda Centre. And at the very top of the store, it was quite a small shop. I think it was probably like massive, because I never really went anywhere further along the shop. I just went to the parts that I liked, and they had the big Gore the Lord Protector, and he was a giant box. And every Saturday afternoon, evening, as I said, when my dad picked my mum up, I would go to Zodiac, and I would literally look up at the top of the part and just stare at Zoidzilla and Gore the Lord Protector. The two boxes were there. One looked like Godzilla and one looked like King Kong. And they were incredibly cool. And then I saw them in the flesh a couple of years ago at a toy fair. I didn't sadly purchase them, but yeah, once again they're on the mental wish list. There's so much to talk. So many ones I like. I just picked up my Wheeled Warriors. I love Galaxy Rangers and Galaxy Rangers toys. I love Cops toys. And then there's a couple of 80s lines that kind of got toys but didn't. So I absolutely love the Terrorhawks, the Gerry Anderson. It's more the macramation, where you don't see the strings anymore. It's all done animatronically, kind of underneath, and still using your hands, but hidden. They sadly didn't really get any toys, and that's a toy line crying out for figures and play sets in the mid-80s. I know you got like die-cast Matchbox models and those bits and pieces. And that didn't get a toy line. Same with Battle of the Planets as well. They've had subsequent toy lines, and they've had stuff released in Japan. But as a kid, when you see G-Force, I would have loved a couple of toys like that. The one that I really wish that I'd had a toy line done in the scale of Mask or Action Force G.I. Joe. You can tell I've given this a lot of pre-thought. I would have loved a toy line for Pole Position. You could have had rhodium wheels, a couple of like bad guy vehicles, and then you could have had like the stunt show as a playset, and the truck, and then the detachable computer heads could have gone on to subsequent figures, and it all could have interacted. The stunt show could have connected to the truck, and they could have had transforming elements like Mask, and it could have created a command center. So yes, that is the one TV show that I wish it had a toy line. I've alluded to this mental wish list in my head, and there's one thing that I have always wanted, and I've never ever seen it in the flesh ever. I've only ever seen it online, and I've never seen it on eBay. It is a Inspector Gadget toy, and it's the Gadgetmobile that transforms from the van to the car. I believe it's made by like Tiger Toys, a really tiny toy company from the mid 80s. It might have just been a small American company, but yeah, it's incredibly cool. I said I've only seen it on pictures of a tatty back card, but I know that it fully exists. And that is kind of like a holy grail for me. Is an Inspector Gadget toy. So moving on to the 90s. As I started the video, there is actually only a couple of toy lines that I like from the 90s. I like the Jurassic Park vehicles from the early 90s. They look really cool. Not so much the figures. and I definitely like the look of Botsmaster. I'd love to get me some of those. My next door neighbour, who was a bit younger than me, he had a couple of the Botsmaster figures. By that time, I'd kind of stopped playing with toys, and I was getting into probably like BMXs and skateboards and stuff like that. But obviously still had an enjoyment out of toys. I used to kind of still see them, but I never really played them. And it's only later on in life that I'd seen Botsmaster toys, and I'd rewatched the cartoon. Super enjoyable cartoon. And then, yeah, there's some interesting toys with those. And then the biggest one from the 90s is I am a huge fan of Star Wars: The Shadow of the Empire. The whole Shadows of the Empire thing. It's the whole multimedia experience. I loved the comic. I loved the novel. I loved the N64 game. I love pretty much any game on that console. For me, yeah, it's the greatest console of all time. So yeah, I absolutely love Shadows of the Empire, and they created an incredible set of figures for that line, with Prince Izor, and you got Luke in a totally different disguise. You could pick up IG-88 and Boba Fett in different stances, and they also, do you know what, I've actually got some pretty close here. So we've got Dash Rendar. He's kind of like the Han Solo-esque character, and we have got so this is Chewbacca in his bounty hunter disguise. He is called Snoover. Yeah, a little flat top, a bit of camo on his fur. So yeah, it was a great line of toys and figures that brought a brand new element to Star Wars for me. So yeah, that's the biggest thing in the 90s that I like. It did the same thing with what G.I. Joe and Action Force did. It re-released some of the toys again, so you could pick up a Slave One. You could pick up some of the other toys that had happened, years and years before they'd just got redone them. Although they were doing that with the other line anyway. But this is, I'm getting all shaky thinking about the Shadows of the Empire. It's just a really cool element, and it came about in that mid period of the 90s, when I was interested in collecting toys again, and I picked up a few bits here and there, and kind of just left it at that, and now I'm just returning back to Shadows of the Empire. So yeah, I don't know whether to make this a part one or a multi-pied bit about 80s and 90s toys, because there's definitely more that I could talk about. There's ones that I haven't even sort of mentioned. Yeah, and I'm sure I can show a bit more examples. So I've got them. Most of them sitting behind me, and I've got some over here and some up high and some downstairs. So once again, thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye.